now they're putting even more charges on him. And then
when they want you, they want you. I knew they wanted him bad when they waited for that law to get passed. They waited all the way.
The penalty.
So it'd be 8-4.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know, they waited all the way till that law got passed to take him to trial.
Yeah, he was in jail for what, 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah. They could have been took you to trial.
You're right.
They waited till that law got passed and took him to trial a couple months later. When they want you, man. I just don't see how he didn't get a bond after a fucking mistrial.
Yeah.
That made me like, God damn.
Yeah.
Like, after a mistrial, that doesn't happen, really.
YNW Melly's release from jail has been announced by the judge. According to today's shared update, the judge granted the Broward Sheriff's Office until December 16th to provide an explanation for why Melly shouldn't be released from prison after asking for a 10-day extension. If no explanation is provided, Melly will be released. W. Melly is hoping that a new lawsuit he filed on his own will get him out of jail. The case claims that the Broward Sheriff's Office violated his constitutional rights and treated him cruelly. The rapper, whose real name is Jal Demons, is accused of killing 2 of his childhood friends in 2018. According to the lawsuit, he hasn't been able to see or communicate with any of his family members for the past 3 years. What's worrying is that YNW Melly should have been released on December 7th when the prosecutors were supposed to provide their case, but the judge chose to extend it in order to support the prosecution. This has been Melly's reality, for just like Boy said about YNW Melly, the feds have had 5 years to do whatever they want to him with no compensation. Now they are charging him with even more crimes, and when they want you, they want you. I knew they wanted them badly, and when they waited for that law to pass, they waited all the way to the penalty, so it will be 84. Yes, they waited till I passed that law to bring him to try, and he wasn't incarcerated for 2 or 3 years. You're correct, they may have been to get TR, they waited for that log-out pass, and then took him to trial a few months later. When they want you, man. Well, that made me think, goddamn yeah, because after a mystery, that doesn't really happen. Melly has been treated very unfairly, which is why her mother is suing the Broward Sheriff's Office for cruel treatment. Melly is also requesting immediate release. Melly also claims he is not allowed to see or speak with family in 3 years as described. Melly has been living in a freezing cold jail cell, this alongside no edible food and 0 human contact. It was even shared an interview from Melly's mother paints a disturbing photo of Melly's life in jail, making it sound like he will not last much longer. Her local news station would then call her in for an interview where YNW Melly's mother is seen ranting over the fact that Melly was granted a mistrial, essentially beating the case, and he is still left inside a jail. My son has not been convicted of anything, and even other inmates that have been convicted or anything, they have the right to use a telephone. They have a right to be allowed to write letters to their loved ones, to receive their mail. They hold his mail, they don't give it to him. However, this would end up getting the attention of Charleston White, who would react sharing that YNW Melly should be living like this. He shouldn't get any special treatment just because he's a rapper. Even the YNW Melly, I'm so happy he's in jail getting mistreated. Yeah, I'm so happy he's in jail getting mistreated, homie. Homie, when you take a life, homie, you don't have a right to complain about a mothering thing about being mistreated when you chose to play somebody. Melly's mother would end up reacting to Charleston White, showing that she's extremely unhappy. She feels absolutely, it's deeply heart-wrenching to imagine the pain a mother must feel when her son is suffering, and it's even more devastating when that suffering occurs within a place meant to provide safety, structure, and justice. Melly's mother's statement, expressing her heartbreak over her son's mistreatment in jail, captures a raw and unbearable truth. She revealed how Melly, her son, had been enduring physical and emotional abuse and how he was afraid for his life. The fear and desperation that any mother would feel for her child in such a situation are palpable. Melly's mother couldn't hide the anguish she felt, and as a mother herself, it struck a chord with anyone who has ever loved a child. The idea that her son was not even being treated like a human being inside the jail was incomprehensible. As a mother, she's supposed to be able to protect her child, but in this case, she was forced to watch as he suffered in a system that should have been protecting him instead. Upon hearing her words, I felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness. I knew her pain all too well. Despite the attempts to address this issue through the legal system, the situation seemed to be beyond anyone's control. We had taken this matter to court in an effort to ensure that Melly's rights were respected, but it became clear that the judge unfortunately had no real jurisdiction over the jail's operations. This lack of oversight only further compounded the injustice. The jail, it seemed, was operating outside of the law with little accountability to anyone. There was no one keeping watch over their practices, no one to answer for the way they were treating the inmates. It was a system that was seemingly beyond reproach, and that in itself was deeply concerning. There's no question that this situation isn't fair, especially considering the fact that the Broward Sheriff's Office, which oversees the jail, needed to be held accountable for the treatment of inmates under its care. They had to be investigated, yet instead of any meaningful investigation or changes being made, the back and forth between individuals like Charleston White and Melly's mother was all anyone seemed to focus on. Instead of addressing the root of the problem, the mistreatment of a human being, the discourse devolved into distractions and accusations. The real issue, Melly's suffering, was sidelined. And as a mother watching her son endure this nightmare, Melly's mother's pain was compounded by the inability to find a way to protect her child from the system that was supposed to serve him. During this time, another figure, Bowie, came forward to shed light on the emotional toll that this situation had been taking on Jamie King, Melly's mother. Bowie, who had met Melly's mother while Melly was still incarcerated, spoke candidly about the stress Jamie was under. He described her as being incredibly real, someone who wasn't pretending but instead dealing with the raw, painful truth of what her son was going through. When Bowie spoke about his own feelings and the connection he had with Jamie, it became clear that he wasn't just sympathizing from a distance, he was connecting on a personal level, understanding the emotional turmoil she was facing. Having seen his own mother suffer, Bowie understood the gravity of what Jamie was experiencing. He was moved to act because he had been in her shoes, and seeing her in pain made him want to do something to help, just as anyone who cares deeply for a loved one would. Yet, despite the growing awareness of Melly's mistreatment and the emotional toll it was taking on his family, the legal system seemed to turn a blind eye. The feds compiled a 6-page evidence file detailing why YNW Melly should remain in jail, which only added to the sense of helplessness. They pointed out that Melly had been arrested in Broward County, Florida on February 13, 2019, and despite the fact that a mistrial had been declared in his case on July 22, 2023, he remained behind bars. Melly's ongoing imprisonment even after the mistrial seemed to serve as a glaring example of the systemic failures within the justice system. Despite the mistrial, despite the ongoing cries for justice and fairness, Melly continued to be held in a place where he was subjected to mistreatment. It painted a grim picture of how sometimes the legal system can fail even the most vulnerable individuals, leaving them to suffer in an environment that is supposed to be about rehabilitation, but in practice is often far from it. The frustration and heartbreak are palpable in every part of this story. The fact that a mother has to watch her son endure such mistreatment without anyone seeming to care or take meaningful action is a tragedy in itself. But that Borland had only been there for 4 days. The police have always wanted Melly, and it goes back to the 2019 interrogation of YNW Borland, during which Borland hinted that he was the innocent party throughout the interview. I'm driving, trying to avoid getting hit, and you're telling me about how, I don't know, man. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but I'm trying to avoid being struck while driving. You understand what I'm saying? And I know it's not anything you should be concerned about, __. Crazy BR, but if you tell me it happened there must be some proof. For example, there is broken glass here from when you guys opened the doors and other things like that. There is also broken glass over there from when the windows were broken, and there will be casings from the people at your car. Okay, right now, there's nothing. I kind of think I know what happened because I got information, as ever since this interrogation, Melly was been the main suspect, as police believe he's the one guilty of doing the crime. They would then go into new evidence revolving around a rogue All-Block member who shared a secret that YNW Melly told King Val, as allegedly Melly was asking King Val for advice on how to handle a situation where your two best friends, aka Sack Chaser and Juvie, are trying to come after you for financial gain. Did V really tell you that Melly told him that he two friends he ain't come out? And say, like, we got to an argument, and so you know, if you know when people can say something without saying it, and so he told me, like, once I posted what I posted, he Van was mad at me, bro. Why you put there, bro, the B? I'm like, you sitting up here, like, you know the love we got you do this for us, but you're going to trust that his two friends and he said was trying to extort him. And so I'm like, if they was trying to extort him, then why are you still around them? As the YNW group, founded and led by YNW Melly, is not just a collection of musicians and performers, but an actual registered business. As a legitimate business entity, YNW Melly, along with Borland, would perform concerts, sell merchandise, and promote various companies, all in exchange for financial compensation. The money from these activities would flow through the official YNW LLC. However, there were members of the group, namely Sack Chaser and Juvie, who felt entitled to a share of the earnings despite contributing nothing to the work that generated the income. They believed that the profits should be split 4 ways, a notion that Melly and Borland strongly disagreed with. Both Melly and Borland were determined to keep the profits to themselves, refusing to give up any percentage to the others. This disagreement over money and fair distribution of the business profits set the stage for increasing tensions within the group. Those who believed they deserved a cut, despite not contributing to the work, became frustrated. The situation grew more complicated as their resentment festered, and it was during this time that things likely began to spiral out of control. For anyone familiar with King Von's past, it's not hard to imagine how his influence may have impacted Melly's decision-making. King Von, known for handling disputes with violence, could have very well suggested a similar approach to Melly. The speculation is that this influence, paired with the unresolved conflict over money, might have become the motive behind the crime. However, when we examine the evidence, it becomes clear that something far more sinister may have been at play. The evidence found on YNW Melly's phone took the situation to a troubling new level. Hours after the crime was committed, Melly sent a text message to someone asking if he was okay. The reply from the person, identified as the Pi Gambino account, shows a chilling response from Melly, "I did that," followed by a smiley face emoji. This response, sent at 10:26 a.m. on October 26, 2018 at 4:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, left little room for doubt. Melly's admission was direct and matter-of-fact. It wasn't just a cryptic message, it was a clear acknowledgement of his involvement in the crime, presented with an unsettling level of nonchalance. But it didn't stop there. Additional evidence was uncovered in the form of a saved video on Melly's phone. The video, which had been streamed live on someone's Facebook page, showed Melly and Borland reacting to the crime. This footage was recorded a mere 6 hours after the incident took place. In the video, Melly and Borland appeared unusually upbeat, almost celebrating as they discussed the events that had just transpired. The tone of the video struck a stark contrast to what one might expect from individuals who had just committed such a heinous act. There was no visible remorse or grief. Instead, they appeared almost carefree, as if nothing had happened. In fact, Melly is seen in the video saying, "Still turned, regardless of what happened," with no hint of sadness or regret for the deaths of two people who had once been close friends. The lack of emotional reaction from Melly in the aftermath of the crime has only fueled suspicions about his involvement and the nature of the crime. His reaction, or lack thereof, seemed to suggest a complete disregard for the lives of those he had just taken. This chilling behavior only added fuel to the fire for investigators, who saw it as a key piece of evidence in building their case against him. The lead prosecutor, upon reviewing the evidence, was quick to point out the disturbing nature of the video and the text, emphasizing that Melly's actions and words demonstrated not just a lack of remorse but a calculated indifference to the violence that had just occurred. This combination of motive, opportunity, and evidence has left little doubt in the minds of investigators that YNW Melly's involvement in the crime was not a result of some unfortunate mistake, but rather a cold and calculated act. The business tensions within the group, paired with Melly's apparent lack of remorse, have led authorities to believe that the crime was, in part, motivated by financial gain and personal grievances. Melly's behavior, both before and after the crime, has painted a troubling picture of someone who may have been willing to go to extreme lengths to protect his interests, even if it meant taking the lives of those closest to him. Then dive deep into the physical evidence of the crime, such as the Jeep that they were driving in, as they would end up bringing up evidence from the trial where Sergeant Williams revealed there is no way this could have been a drive-by and the person that committed the crime had to have been sitting. In the back left seat number, she said 17 outside the car. How many rounds were inside of the car? 3. And can you exclude the for Mr. Williams and Mr. Thomas are coming from outside of the car? Yes, from the passenger side back seat. As to the Christopher Comm, where did that come from? The driver's side back seat. Is it possible for there to have been 2 inside that car? No, why not? There is no time assignment, which is to determine if this is a drive-by, and my determination was that this is not a drive-by, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. All of these rounds are done, one is done at a stationary position, when all the one of these rounds are going in the one round that has some movement in it, which is round site L here, the actually moving, and that to create the little bit of that you see there. Okay, a lot of information in that answer, so let's break it down a little bit. You mentioned A, so I'm going to zoom in on site with Williams revealing the crime must have occurred inside of the vehicle during the original Melly trial. This is when we saw YWJV's mother go to the stand and share who was sitting there. And are you related to one of in this game? Yes, I am. How? So I'm his mother. And who is that? Christopher, Miss Phillips. Did you see who entered into the occupant, who entered into that grade Jeep Majame? And is that a yes? Yes. Do you recognize where your son entered that gray Jeep? Yes. Which seat? If you can identify for the jury, he got in the back seat on the right hand side. Did you recognize the individual